Hey guys, Waddock Studios here, and today we're going to go over a question from, I think it's Kanala Light. It comes directly from the Waddock Studios YouTube channel, and it was pertaining to the skeletal system animation and sequencer tutorial that I went over. And they simply asked, how do I add weapons? So, um, today I'm going to create a starter project which is blank, and I have the 2D skeletal system plugin already installed on the launcher. So like if we head over to the Epic Games launcher, we go to Unreal Library and you go to install plugins, you can see I already have it here. Now if you're someone who has the blueprint only, I'll also step through that process as well. There's not going to be much of a difference there. So we'll just go ahead and create this blank project. Hopefully it's not going to have a crap ton of shaders to compile before it starts up. Looks like it's going to be okay. And if you're someone who doesn't have the plugin enabled, and by the way, if you want to see plugin content, you check this box over here. But yeah, we'll go find the 2D skeletal system. And I think we can just search for it at this point because it looks like it's going to. Oh, never mind. Make sure you enable the plugin first, guys. Alright, so now you should see the 2D Skeletal System Tools content folder, and we can just go directly to the test map and load that up. And if you was to hit play here, you would see that I already have a character in the scene, and this character already has a weapon. So let's go take a look at that blueprint. So if we go to the base character, you'll see in the viewport that we have a weapon here, and you'll see it's only really a static mesh with a material on it. And if we browse out to that mesh, the weapon plane, I'm going to drag this over. You'll see that the weapon plane is just a mesh card, and it's got this weapon material assigned to it. That's really all it is. And the weapon material is just a material instance that has a texture applied to it that is then masked. So if we go back to the weapon plane and we was to change this to, or just clear this out, let's do that. Let's set it back to nothing. It's just a plane, right? So I'll Control Z that. You're just applying this mask material to a mesh plane, and then in your character BP, the static mesh is placed into the weapon socket, right? So there's a socket that's going to be on this mesh here. So if we go check that out, and we go to this guy's skeleton, you'll see that there's a weapon socket. And I can change this to movable. So here's the weapon socket, and then the mesh plane has been applied as a preview. Now, what if you want to add new weapons? Well, if we go to textures here, you see this T weapon. There's an axe. So if we went to this character, this is blueprint, and I went here, and I wanted to change this, which it looks like it's a stick here, and in the test map it looks like it's an axe. So I may have already, yeah, it may already have a different weapon assigned to the character that's being played. So if we go to character blueprint, yeah, the child character already has a different weapon assigned to it. It's like the material instance for the left leg is acting weird. What's going on there? Same with this guy. It's just not compiled or saved properly or something. There we go. Maybe that's like a 5.5 bug. But yeah, so the character that's being spawned is here. If we go look at him, and we open the full blueprint editor in the static mesh, you'll see that there is this stick. BP character 2. And there's a stick here. I'm just curious why. Oh, the material. So that's how you would change the material on the plane to swap out the weapon. So once you have this set up, I don't know how many weapons we actually have. I think we have a few. Yeah, we just have these 2. But let's go in here. And we'll just copy this. Duplicate. We'll move it into column 1. And we'll go select like the stone club. So we have another material. And if we go back here, scroll up a little bit, now we have the stone club. And now if we hit test, you'll see that the guy has a stone club in his hand. All right. So that's essentially how the weapon system works. But let's say, like, what if I want a new weapon, right? So let's see if I can find a weapon really quick. I'm gonna pause the video until I get this found. Okay, so I found a really quick PNG of a weapon online. It's a free resource. So we'll go ahead and make a texture folder, a new one, and I'll just make a new weapons folder. And then we'll just drag this guy in here. It's going to be a texture. And then we're going to right click this and we're going to apply paper 2D settings to it. Remember, you're going to need the paper 2D plugin, I think, enabled for this. So if you've already enabled the 2D skeletal system plugin, it's going to require this. But the assets you may or may not have the Paper 2D plugin enabled in your project if you're using the Blueprint Access assets. Now, once you've had this done, the easiest way to go about automatically creating the material that you need with the asset pack is to add a plane. So we'll go to Shapes, Plane, and we'll rotate this whatever way you want to rotate it. And then you'll just drag this texture onto that plane, and it'll create the basically the material for you masked. Now if we go check this out, it could be, yeah, it is masked and it's default lit and it's got a opacity mask, so all of this looks good. I would just say go check fully rough and make sure that that's ticked so you can save a little bit on this. That way you're not paying for this half roughness value here. That looks good. So let's rename this sword or something, just so I can find it easier. And then I'm gonna delete it from the scene. I don't know how big this thing's gonna be compared to the character. It could be massive. We'll see. Oh no, it's really small, and it's rotated the wrong way due to the socket location. Are scaled maybe. Let's rotate this, and let's also see what the nope. So it wasn't that. There we go. And there we are. Now, it does not like to be negatively scaled when I turn around. And that is likely because we are not two-sided on the material. There we go. So that's the easy way to use the asset pack to slap a weapon in for the 2D skeletal system and have it, you know, applied to the weapon socket that already exists. Now, what if you don't want to use the plane that is being used, and you have the plugin enabled, right? Well, the plugin gives you a couple of extra things that you can do. So you can extract the sprite from this. I think it's just going to be one, right? So now you have a sprite. Now if you double click this sprite and you go over to edit the region of this, and then we come down to advanced, let's go render geometry, and you change this from type bounding box to shrink wrapped. That should be good for default, and you hit save. Now what you'll notice is that if we were to take this sprite and drag it out into the scene, it is freaking huge, by the way. The geometry is tightly wrapped around the image itself, so the amount of overdraw that you have from it is going to be a lot less. And then the plugin allows you now to convert this sprite within the 2D skeletal system tools to a static mesh. And you just hit convert. It's going to create a static mesh of this. So now you'll see that, like, if we were to take the material and remove it, or set it to none, let's see if we can actually just clear it out. It's going to make me save it first. And we'll just say world grid material so you guys can see this. You'll see that the static mesh is the actual shape of the sword, so there is no overdraw here. So that is another way, or another item in the plugin that allows you to do this very easily. The difference now is that the pivot is not going to be where you want it to be, but that's easily, you just come to modeling tools, go to the model, I think it's the mesh right here, edit the pivot. We'll just drag this where we think the pivot is supposed to be. I think it is in the center of the mesh like that. That should be fine. Save this. Technically I would have scaled this guy down like a lot, because if we go back to the character, and there's two ways to do that. Let's drag that other weapon. Let's go back to selection. We'll go to plane shapes. We'll rotate this back around 90, drag it up. So if I go back to weapons and we find this M sword and we slap it on here real quick. Okay, so let's, I don't want to go that far. All right. I'm going to lock this 0.05 until I can find the value that's going to be really close. Looks like 0.06. Yeah. That looks really close. Yeah, that's good enough for me. So it looks like the size of this is going to be 0.056. Now what you can do is go to the actual static mesh that it made, double click it, go down to the build settings, go to the build scale, and then hit apply. So now it's almost invisible, but that's because we've just applied the static mesh build settings, and if you hit revert here, you'll see it's back to its scale of 1:1:1, matching up with what we expect here. Now I'm going to delete this, and we are going to change the static mesh name because it technically is the sword. And right here, instead of this being SM weapon plane, we'll just change this to sword. There we go. So that's another way for you to get the same thing. And if you were to like drag, and I'll show you the difference here of what this is. Like, we'll just put a plane out here and I'll drag it up and we'll drag this material back onto it. If you were to go to optimization view mode and go to shader complexity, you're gonna get a scene, which I don't know if quad overdraw isn't really going to do it. Shader complexity in quads isn't really going to do it. You may not be paying for it here because this overdraw on a mass material, masked overdraw, is going to be technically the engine can call it out in early Z. So in deferred rendering, you're likely not going to have that overdraw cost the same way you would in forward, but in forward you would have a quad here unless you were masking an early Z, and you would be paying for the section of the quad that is overdrawing onto the scene. That's just getting into some technicalities, but I wanted you to know that the option is there so that you don't have to do that. So you don't have this extra full quad triangle you're paying for. You can just pay for the actual mesh itself, the actual triangles on the mesh itself, and not have any overdraw at all, because it will be the shape of the sword. So you do have those tools available to you in the plugin. Anyway, I hope that this was helpful and answers the question at hand about how do I add new weapons, or how does the socketing weapon system function. It's pretty much, to wrap it up and recap, it's pretty much a socket that is located on the skeleton of the character, and the weapon is parented to that socket under the socket name weapon. And it is a plane or a static mesh with a mass material that is applied, and because it's socketed, it moves with the animation data as the animation plays. Yeah, until next time, guys, I want you to hit that like and subscribe button. I do want to say thanks to all my Patreon members and the Waldock Studios Discord and YouTube family members. Until next time, guys, toodles.